taking grief and understanding that grief actually made me feel more alive. And people say it gets better. It does not. At least mine did not. But I grew around it. She never got married, but she had 11 babies by a man that was married to another woman.
Wow.
Um, and my mom, I'll be honest with you, I've always been a mama's boy. My
Mm-hmm.
mom was everything to me, even with her staying with him.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand the dynamics, like people, I know some people was like, man, yes, there was some upset. I was upset at my mom in some ways, but if you understand growing up in the hood
Mm-hmm.
and growing up in a place where you're just so disenfranchised and you don't understand the dynamic of what it means to have my mother needed that income and the stability of she's making $15,000 a year.
Yeah.
And on top of that, she saw a broken home. My grandmother, I ain't gonna even mention my grandmother. Like, if you understand the dynamic, like God has allowed me to process the whys of why my mom rat.
Yeah.
I mean, she was the youngest of 11 kids, and my grandmother was born in 1920 in Mississippi, where she had a second grade education. She worked on a farm picking cotton.
Yep.
She
Yep.
got married. She got married. She never got married, but she had 11 babies by a man that was married to another woman.
Dang.
So you have to understand, she grew up where she was raised by a mother
Yeah.
that never had a man choose her.
Mm. Mm.
That has something to do with the way you raise your kids. And she didn't know Jesus. Like,
She only knew what
God,
she knew.
God strategically intersected my life so that if we can fast forward ahead, my mother died 7 years ago on my birthday.
Wow.
And I led her to Jesus before she died.
Man.
In the same song that I played when I was 13 years old, 14 years old, seeking Jesus, please don't pass me by,
Mm-hmm.
was the same song she wanted on repeat
Mm.
when she was dying.
Mm.
You can't tell me that God did not get the glory out of my life. Nobody can convince me. And I remember asking my mom, "Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
You do you know who Jesus is?" And she said, "Oh yeah, I know who he is, and
Mm.
he ain't nothing to play with." And I remember her being sick during her last days and in the hospital, going before they put her on hospice, crying because she couldn't even lay down from
Mm.
where the cancerous tumors were. They hurt it so bad. And so she would request food and she would try to taste the food and it wouldn't even taste the same, that she would just get discouraged and cry. And I would cut on worship music.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom in her sickness would lift her hands.
Mm.
That was everything to me, to see my mom. Like, it hurts so deeply to know that the person that I look for validation the most, I won't ever get to see on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But she's sitting and standing and worshiping with the creator
Amen.
and the lover of my soul.
Amen.
And I will see her again.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, people like people ask someone asked me the question. It was like, if you could have her back, would you take her? I said yes in a second I would.
Right.
But the fact that I can't, I'm like, okay, God, you're gonna have to get the glory out of my life then.
Yeah.
And he's done just that.
Man, bro.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's an appropriate pause, man. first off, thank you for sharing that. Um, to to know that even on this side that you were able to get some kind of closure, where you
Hmm.
were able to get that connection, um, is a is a
Yeah,
blessing in of
man.
itself.
It's something about grief. I am like, so my concept of grief is so different now because when it first happened, it hurts to the point that you can't even breathe.
Yeah, yeah.
And people say it gets better. It does not. At least mine did not. But I grew around it.
Ooh, okay.
And my
Ooh, that was
yeah.
good. That was good. Hang on. That was good, bro. That was good. You it didn't get better. You grew around it, man. Unpack that, bro, because I know there's so many people, even in this chat on the playback, who is dealing with some kind of grief, one way or
Hmm.
the other. Rather it's a recent, rather it's something they've never been able to get past. Talk, man. Talk. What does that mean to grow around it?
Your perspective changes
Mm.
as you live with it. And I knew and it got to the point that I will grief is literally like love with nowhere to go.
Mm.
I felt like for so long it was like the love and the memories that I had from my mom were just there at the tip of my they were like at the tip of my fingers, but I could never touch her. So it's like I felt like I was being taunted
Mm.
by these memories that I had. But then as the years went by and God starts reveal to you the why, and he starts to like, and then you notice that your perspective starts to change towards it because I rather grieve my mom than not ever know her at all.
Yeah, that's good.
I rather grieve her and miss her
Yeah.
than not ever experience her at all. So the way I honor her is about keep living. And also, grief has a way of making you live,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to death. When someone close to you dies, you cannot, you can't, there ain't no theory no more of whether death is real.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
The end becomes very real
Yep.
that one day you are going to die.
Yep.
So how am I going to live now that I can die well?
Mm.
So so like growing around it and taking grief and understanding that grief actually made me feel more alive because now I'm living for purpose. I know I don't have long here, so I want to leave empty. When I the day that I die, I want to leave empty of everything that I was meant to do
Yeah.
on this earth. I want to be able to do it. And it also, in another sense of it, grew you growing around it. It made every other thing that I was holding on to
Yeah.
seem so small. And I'll get into that later because one of the songs directly talks about that.
Yeah.
Um, the learning to forgive to the point that I woke up one day in the middle of grieving my mom and I looked for the anger in the that feeling of I would never escape that that feeling of that feeling of anger that I had towards my stepfather.
Uh huh.
I woke up one day and I remember distinctly waking up searching for the hurt and I could not find it.
Mm. Wow.
I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the offense. And I was like, I got every right to be mad at him. He abused me. He did this to me.
Yeah.
He did this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And from grief, it made it seem so small
Wow,
because life became so much bigger than
bro.
that.
Yeah. You got your healing through grief.
Yeah, I got so much healing through grief. I met my wife in the middle of grieving my mom, and then through grief, self-esteem came because now it's like this is my life. I can't run away from it, and I'm not ashamed of it because and it's like then self-esteem came in and me really finding out who I was and not really caring about what people thought of me because I have purpose now.
Mm.
All of a sudden, it just all this stuff that started dropping off, and now I can say I am very much so still grieving my mom,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Mm.
They can coexist.
Absolutely.
Grief and complete joy and happiness can coexist. They're not competing elements.
Yep.
They can coexist and both be true.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No. And you can grieve and still worship God at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Those are not opposite as well. You know, you can look through the psalm and just know, hey, you can be super transparent with the way that you
Yep.
feel, and still realize that God
Yep.
is on the throne. Still realize that that He is who He says He is.
He is.
Yeah. Lauren is in the chat. She said the man who stepped in as my brother when I was growing up and my whole life just killed himself 2 weeks ago. So I'm definitely relating. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah, our
I'm
condolences for
sorry to
sure.
hear that. I'm sorry
Yeah.
to hear that. And back up, now that stepfather has become the father I never had. We have a full blown relationship.
Oh
Like
man.
he
Oh,
calls me, he validates me.
same guy.
The same guy.
Let's go. Come on, God. Okay. Ah, bro.
And I believe it's God letting me show him. And I remember having a conversation where I said, "Yeah, I know what you did. I know what you did, but I want you to know this." And I looked at him
Mm,
and I told him some things that God had revealed to me about him
mm,
because I was able to see him in his humanness. And he was like, "Wow." He was shocked that I knew him that well. And I said,
mm,
"I want you to know this. There is no debt to be paid.
mm,
I have nothing against you. You don't owe me anything."
mm.
He owes me nothing. He don't even owe me an apology.
That's tough, bro.
Yes, sir.
That's tough. Ooh, I'm glad I do not have a high definition camera. All right. Um, it's so important. It is so important to be able to forgive, man. Yeah, let's get into that song, bro. Let's get
Mm-hmm.
into the Oxen Spotlight, learning to forgive, bro. Because I feel like this is a great transition. It's a great time to go into this conversation. So tell us the heart behind the song, man. Kind of where you were in the creation of
Yeah.
it and whatnot.
So my wife was walking through a similar situation of forgiveness. And one day she split this, she just spit some knowledge one day. She said, "I just learned how to accept the apologies that I may never get."
Ooh,
And,
okay. Wow.
and that stuck with me. I was like, and it stuck with me. And so I was in Nashville writing with Benji Coward and John Strandell. And we were talking about forget we was just vibing about a song. And I was like telling him about my wife saying that sometimes you just gotta accept the apology that you never forget. And Benji Coward just started the song with time. Oh, it takes time to accept the apology you may never get.
Mm,
Like, and it just spurred into this song called Learning to Forgive because it shows the humanness of us,
yeah.
how forgiveness is a process, and how sometimes that same person will make you mad and you got to start all the way over. But the point is, you got to keep on working towards forgiveness. Forgiveness is a process, it's a
Yeah.
learning process, and it's
Yeah.
a practice to keep going forward and understanding that at the core of forgiveness, if God can forgive you, surely you can forgive other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Ah, that's good, bro. That's good. Oh man, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get into the song, y'all. So you guys know what it is. During the brand spotlight music portion, you guys run up in the chat, let him know. I'm gonna switch screens here, and he's gonna be able to see your chats. But So this is Lloyd, Learn to Forgive. Let's go. Hey, if you liked any of this content and you found some value in it, make sure that you like, subscribe, and of course, share it. Also, if you're interested in some more, go ahead and check out these videos. Till next time, grace and peace. Adios.